Commander Riker is pretty sure his arm is broken. Data's primary speech processors are experiencing a minor fluctuation, and Molly gets in a terribly foul mood if Chief O'Brien is late. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
Those were more informative than funny. My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation Season 5, Episode 15, Power Play. Story by Paul Rubin. I don't think that's Paul Rubens. And Maurice Hurley. That's really interesting. Teleplay by Renee Balker and Herbert Wright and Brannon Braga. We know him. Directed by David Livingston. That's cool. This was February 22nd, 1992. Where were you and how are you, Sirach Lofton?
I'm doing great. February 2nd, 2292.
That's a good date. That's a good date.
Yeah.
Okay, first and foremost, story by Maurice Hurley. Remember, that was like the producer guy from the original series.
Yeah.
He kind of came over like the first season of Next Generation. So was this a story that he just kind of helped to come up with back in the first season that they'd been kicking around for 4 years? Or did he kind of come back to the show a couple times here and there? Because that's really strange. I hope our buddy Jason Oken joins us in the pre-prog, because he'll probably know. He loves that old school stuff. But I don't know. What do you think that's all about?
Not quite sure. But I can say that there were elements of it that did feel like, I don't know, I would say original series-ish. The thing that strikes me the most is the whole concept about ghosts,
right?
And and being possessed. I thought that was kind of like a theme or an episode kind of idea that may have been circulated in the series, because it does feel like one of those subject matter.
Right. That's true that the original series was not afraid to tackle things like ghosts. Whereas nowadays we'd kind of scoff at, like, what are you talking about, ghosts? This is weird. But the original series was like ghosts, Greek gods, whatever. Looking at this here, Maurice Hurley did stop producing The Next Generation after season 2. But he has a few writing credits. He has a lot of written by and story by credits in season 1, of course, 6 of those. 4 in season 2, including Shades of Grey. And one season 4 episode and one season 5 episode. This one. Now, it's just a story by, but I do wonder how kind of stuck around for a few months or a few years, I should say. Anyway, and then the other one that kind of jumps out there, David Livingston, we already know and love. Brannon Braga, that's interesting. You know, he's kind of a newbie back then, I would think.
Yeah, I would imagine that he hadn't fully earned his stripes yet, especially with all these top dogs around that were, just now taking the reins of everything. You had Berman, Pillar, and all of these guys. So, yeah, he was waiting his turn in the wings.
So it looks like he joined the writer's room last season in The Next Generation, season 4. And so at this point, yeah, he's already, he's well on his way, but he's still kind of the new guy. And then, as we know, he really took off in Voyager. Anyway, so this episode, everybody, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications. If you're listening, and give us a 5-star rating and a nice review, we'd really appreciate that. And if you really want to be cool, please go to patreon.com/the7th-rule and join our Patreon. You could join as a member for just $1. I don't know what that translates to in other countries, but $1. I'd buy that for $1, for those of you that remember RoboCop. But of course, if you want to do more than $1, that's also fine. So, Sirach, this episode, I remember it. I remember it pretty well. And I remember really liking a couple aspects of it. And the main aspects for me is that Chief O'Brien got a lot of work. Keiko O'Brien,
Yeah.
Molly's there. So you're expanding O'Brien's story beyond just this guy that pushes buttons in Transporter Room 3. And Ensign Rowe. This is the first time it felt like Ensign Rowe was not feeling like the new person or the odd person out, where she was just part of the crew figuring out a solution.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't any weird stuff or any new stuff. It was just, she's now part of the crew. She's talking with people. She's coming up with ideas. I thought that was really cool. And, they just used a lot of characters and kind of expanded their cast. And that's something I love. That's what I love best about Deep Space Nine is the rich cast that goes on for miles.
Were you looking for any tells of the previous episode with Ro Laren and Troy and that whole, escapade that they had?
Oh, no, I didn't even think of that. Were you?
I was looking.
Smart.
Because there was a moment there on the bridge where Ro's sitting there at her, at her panel, and she's at her console, and Troy walks into the frame to address Riker. And I was thinking, let's see if this is, let's see how this is going to go. If there's going to be any kind of residual awkwardness from the last episode. But I didn't see it. Ro kind of handled it like nothing ever happened.
I thought it would have been funny if Troy's walking around beating people up on the bridge, doing all this stuff. And then, Riker's like, oh my God, what's gotten into them or something? And Ro goes, I didn't notice any difference. Basically,
yeah.
Like, I don't know, Troy's a battle axe to me. I don't know did you notice a difference? I didn't. But no, none of that.
Yeah. Well, I thought you were going to say that it would have been interesting had Ro been taken hostage and she was the one being assaulted by Troy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this one we're going to kill first based on
that would be so history. Fun. See, but this show is so episodic. That kind of stuff was so rare because sometimes that episode would come out before the other one or whatever. But that would have been so fun if we even just got one or two lines, added, where she takes, maybe she takes Ro and she goes, I know the body I'm inhabiting definitely is happy about this, or some kind of like some kind of little zing. That would have been fun.
Zing there to connect the dots from the last episode, because they did leave it like up in the air, like, okay, well, all is well, it's a one night stand situation, and we're just going to move on and be adults. But it's hard to. There's always that little flare of awkwardness that comes on the heels of something like that. It doesn't always just smoothly transition.
Or what about between Ro and Riker? Like when Riker, like if there's just kind of something where even just any kind of line where, Ro says, Commander, you're going to have to stop avoiding me. Or, just any kind of little thing that just makes that addresses some little thing. And he's like, I'm not avoiding you. And she's like, okay, whatever. We're coming up on the moon now, sir. So, you know what I mean? Like, they're just kind of like a little small talk in there. That would have been funny. But of course, there probably wasn't room for that in this episode. But I also thought it was cool that, first of all, Troy got to play something completely different. But Data got to go nuts. He must have had so much fun. He had to play a tough guy, even the way he was standing, all like, I'm Mr. Tough Guy. And he actually played it pretty well.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I liked about the episode was, first of all, they used the characters very well. This is like, sometimes you only get one character that's heavily featured, and so they get most of the work, and then everybody else is just one line here or one scene there, and it doesn't really have any impact. In this particular episode, everybody had a substantial part of the story
Totally.
And that's one of my compliments for the way this was written. It seems like they had a good grasp of every character. Riker was in charge. We got to see him in command. We got to see Picard use his cleverness. We got to see Data act out of character and bully Worf. We got to see Worf have composure and have his moments. You know,
Why I think
yeah.
just to jump on this real quick is that's a great point. And why this is why I think they did it deliberately. The reason I think they did it deliberately is because of Beverly Crusher. They could have easily not even used her in this episode or just been there, but they clearly found something for her to do that worked and that was important to the story. So I think that's a really good point, that I think it was deliberate, where they're like, we want to use all the characters and we want to showcase the thing that many, many Star Trek fans, including myself, say is our favorite thing about Star Trek, which is everybody working together. You do this, you do that. The two of you go here, we'll do this, we'll nod, you figure out this shield. And they're all working together and thinking together and planning together. It's really cool. And I feel like Beverly's role in this episode is proof of that.
So is Keiko's role. The way they enhanced her role. She was really big in this episode.
Molly nailed it.
Yeah, the baby was babying. But yeah, I do think that she was well utilized. I thought her performance was great because she actually, the way she performed her scenes was as if she didn't know this person that was in front of her. And so she looked at Miles as if, he was a stranger to her. And I noticed that there was no appeal on her side to say, you don't remember me, this is our kid. I thought that was actually well done, the way she hid that from him, essentially, and didn't kind of try to gain favor towards him by saying, how could you do this to me? And because if she went to nagging wife mode, I think he might have killed her right then and there. Like, yeah. I'm not Miles.
Yeah. He's like, I don't care. They don't care.
He seemed to have he was fixated with her, which was kind of, it was good and bad. It made sense because obviously they know each other, but it was also bad. It was like, dude, leave her alone. All these people in this room, and stop picking on this woman with a child. Like, of all people, you would think the lady holding the baby, I'm going to leave. She'll be the last one I kind of pick on. Now, the rest of you guys need to, fall in line. I thought that was a little bit, it bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, I was thinking if this was written, since Maurice Hurley, had the story by credit or one of the two, if this was something that had been kicking around all the way back then, I was thinking maybe Spock, Uhura, and Chekhov would be the three that would have gotten inhabited or something like that, so that they could really show their strong differences. Spock would be like the Data or whatever like that. They could really have stark contrast between them.
That's a good observation. Yeah. And Uhura would play the Counselor Troy role.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
Yeah. I can see that.
So there are a lot of things. And again, this one is, I love seeing people all working together, right? It was also really cool to see Geordi and Ro. I like that as a group because that's GNR, that's Guns N' Roses. Everybody knows. And when I write my notes, I do shorthand. So I'm like GNR in the Jeffries tube, and I'm like, oh, cool. I like that crew. Good old GNR. They also, anyway, I won't get into that, but they were really cool. And I was also noticing Michelle Forbes. First of all, she's tall. But you always notice little things about her that makes her like a great actress, not just that she's an ensign, she's a new character, but she walks in like she owns the place. There's no fear, there's no meekness, there's no nothing, she's there, she's present, she's unashamed, unapologetic. But on top of that, when they were in that Jeffries tube or whatever that was, and she was also pretty limber. Like, you know, when they pull off the things, the flooring of that, and she's kind of like crab walking around it. I'm like, dude, I would have had to do like 15 takes and some assisted stretches to get in that thing. But anyway, I mean, those are all things that, you know, you notice and you think, oh, anyway, what do you think of Michelle Forbes as an actress?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that the camera loves her and that she's just like, she shines. She has an intense look on her face. It's very captivating. You're kind of always looking to see what her facial reactions are and how she's going to interpret a comment, or how,
Yeah.
what her reactions are. And so I'm watching her all the time. That's a good sign of of somebody that's not only photogenic but also a good actor, hitting the notes of the scene, making it compelling. I think Michelle Forbes is fantastic. I would have, I see why, Kira comes from the precedent that she set, as far as being a strong woman who is just capable in so many different ways. So much so that it almost feels like she is Riker's equivalent to me. I don't know about everybody else, but just from my own viewing, because it's funny, because last episode Worf wanted command of the ship, right? So he sat in the captain's chair and he thought he was the captain. But from my just outside perspective, if you were to take all the pips away from everybody's collar and you just base off of demeanor, I would say that she is like a number one to me.
She's an alpha, yeah.
Yeah, like Riker. She not necessarily the full captain, because I think a captain has to have certain level of composure that I think she lacks. I think she's a little bit more, reared up, ready to go, trigger happy. Let's say
we know Riker's trigger happy.
Well, that's why I put them together as
right.
the number one spot.
They're a perfect group, those two. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the energy that, for me, what I get, what she radiates from me as somebody who is high level command. She doesn't feel like an ensign to me. And maybe that's because of her life experiences. Maybe that's because of, we've seen her journey and how she actually was very tough with Riker and how she was very tough with Picard when she first came on the scene. So she actually matched them as far as energy wise. She didn't back down. And so that's what I feel from, her performance. And I really enjoyed that Jeffries tube scene as well. I thought the line that was given in it was, I think Geordi says, Starship designers call this easy access, right? And I was thinking to myself, yeah, it's funny because they build these crawl spaces and stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, it's totally easy access. You're crawling through, 4x4 little thing, right? And I just thought that was funny, because it's kind of, it's one of those self-deprecating things that talk about Starfleet engineers designing these ships or whatnot. I thought it was a fun little thing. And that scene worked well. The two of them also work well together. Geordi and Ro Laren have great working chemistry, if that makes any sense. Like, they would make good working partners in Starfleet, as I saw them do in that scene.
I completely agree with that. And that, again, is another one of my favorite things. All my favorite things are character driven, but new character combinations and seeing how they react to one another, what their relationship is like, what the dynamic is like. And this was a new character dynamic. And it's really what Ro does is she brings us a new character dynamic, because by season 5, we've already seen Picard and Data. We've seen Riker and Troy. We know what's up with Beverly and Picard. We need a new combination. Well, here's Ro and Riker. Before that, it was Ro and Picard. Now we're seeing Ro and Geordi, and it's really cool to see this. It's like new, it's fresh, it's interesting. Like we can't help but kind of like lean in. We see, whoa, Geordi and Ensign Ro are, in some tube doing something together. Suddenly it's automatically more interesting to just see this new character combination together. And they worked well together. It looks cool. I also really enjoyed seeing Ro assume the tactical position when Worf was gone. Didn't expect that. She's a pilot. She's helm, but apparently she also does some tactical, some security. And when Riker and Picard were talking in the foreground of a shot, and then we see Ro in the background at tactical, I got a little memory of Tasha Yar, standing back there, handling business. And it makes me think, thank God the writing changed from season 1 to season 5, because it allows Ensign Ro, Michelle Forbes, to be this strong character, this tough character, this interesting character that maybe Denise Crosby was not quite afforded. And, I feel like if she were watching this episode, she'd be thinking, I would have loved to do this. This would have been a great character. This would have been a great story, a great episode. I would have loved to stand back there and be tough and smart and strong and go off on missions and do these things. You know what I mean? Like, it just felt like in 4 seasons, they got it right a lot more than they got it wrong in 4 seasons later. Now they're kind of getting it right a lot more often. Season 1, they were kind of, trying. But anyway, it was just nice. It was just reminiscent of her, seeing Ro back there.
Yeah, I mean, she's fantastic. I mean, so far, every position that they've put her in, every episode she's been in, she's been outstanding to me. I mean, I like watching her perform. But the other thing is O'Brien and how they widened the scope of his. He went to volunteer to do something that we've never seen O'Brien engaged in an away mission type rescue scenario. I mean, here he is. He pops up in the middle of nowhere, and he's like, "I can do it. I can, recalibrate the whatever, and do the thing." And I'm thinking, I like that. He took the initiative to volunteer himself. And he did it. He did what he said he was going to do.
Risked his life. Apparently, Geordi thought it was just a 50-50 chance. And Picard was like, all right, you're aware of the risk? Proceed.
Roll the dice.
He didn't even think that hard about it. He didn't say, is there any other way? Did he say, no, I do not want to risk another life? No, he was just like, transporter chief. I mean,
50-50.
Yeah.
What is that, like a coin flip?
Yeah, that's cool, man. I mean, Worf, can you get another transporter chief ready just in case this one dies? No big, just grab anybody in the hall.
Mean, this guy's literally married and just had a baby. Like, you're like,
but Picard didn't care.
It's a 50-50 chance. Heads or tails, you call it in the air.
I also thought it would have held a little bit more weight if once O'Brien transported over to the planet, we got a little moment, 2 seconds of him going, like just a little, when he transports and he sees it was a success, and he goes like, all right, we did it. Awesome. But he just walked on as if his life wasn't in a 50-50 coin flip. He just walked off and just did his duty without even thinking like, oh my God, I fucking survived. Thank God, nothing.
And just as a little aside from that scene, when they all get electrocuted and they have an overhead shot, and I feel like they're all lying there in the snow, the snowman where you're lying in the snow trying to make an angel or something. It like nobody got knocked over into like a weird, you know what I mean? They all were like, ah. And so I thought it was interesting. I thought that was kind of funny. I looked at it a few times, like, what is this?
I feel like Riker would have gone in the fetal position.
No, he likes missionary. But
what do you mean?
Back to
anyway, please continue.
No. You got me No, I was going to say O'Brien getting his role expanded. You know what I mean?
Love it.
Having his family on the line, having a chance to really play like this villain character.
Maybe almost his first away mission. Is that the first time we've seen
That's his
him
first. Yeah, I can't
off the
remember
ship?
him. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's what I'm saying. I can't
Love
remember
it.
him off the ship. And it's funny because the transporter guy got transported. Like, who's in charge of that now?
So meta.
Uh, yeah, so it is his first away mission. Um, you know, I thought it was also kind of funny. I don't know if you had the kind of comic relief of watching Data pick on War. Was that? Did you like that or did you not like that?
Well, it didn't bother me. I thought it was funny. I mean, obviously, the end was funny when he says, "Oh, I admire your restraint" or something like that. And Worf says, "You have no idea. Like, I really wanted, boy, why I oughta, you know." Um, but yeah, there was definitely something where he just kept picking on Worf, and Worf is just like shaking his head at this guy. You know, Worf is very mopey. We know Worf likes to pout and mope. So watching him like being annoyed, he's like, "I am ready to die," or whatever, you know, like that was fun for me. I enjoyed it. I don't know if it was meant to be funny, but I had a lot of ha-ha moments in this episode, you know, that are just like cute and funny.
That was a great impersonation with your arms folded like that.
It's funny.
That was that Worf or Anne Marie? I mean, the body language said Anne Marie, the voice said Worf.
Yeah, the voice is slightly lower pitched, I think, with Worf.
That was, but yeah, I mean, there were just moments that I liked. I mean, just comical moments, playful moments. Picard had a line there that I really enjoyed. I thought it was great when he offers to exchange himself for the hostages, and he says something to the effect of, as long as they're aboard this ship, I'm a hostage, no matter where I am. I thought that was just like pretty good sound logic on like, hey, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of good lines like that in this episode. I agree that they were just like perspective lines, you know, where Picard has a very good perspective on this. Although there were a lot of things I did have qualms with, and they're just kind of like nitpicks. Like, okay, at the end there, speaking of perspective, we find out these people are prisoners, right?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Stay tuned to find out what my nitpick is because we have to hit our break. We'll be right back.
In.
Oh man, this is going to be so good. Oh man, get grandma. We'll be right back on the seventh rule.